This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and Review. What I'm looking at today are episodes 7 and 8 of the first season because I'm pretty confident there's going to be a second of Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities. And this is a great end to the first season. It's so eclectic and strange, at least one of the episodes, that it's just filmmakers doing what they love to do. And while Guillermo del Toro may be the executive producer, it seems fairly obvious to me that he's not dictating what these people do, because Panos Cosmatos' The Viewing is a Panos Cosmatos film, which is to say it is weird, it has trippy visuals, it has great architecture, and it's essentially an alien invasion story. But it is so bizarre. His whole visual aesthetic is strange. Now keep in mind, Panos, the son of George Cosmatos, Cobra, First Blood, a lot of Stallone movies. And Panos did Beyond the Black Rainbow. In fact, I think that was his first feature. I didn't watch that. I watched part of it, but for whatever reason, I didn't continue. It may be his visual style that kind of knocks me off balance, because it is very distinctive. Though I didn't watch that. Then he came with Mandy, starring Nicolas Cage, which was a huge hit for both of them. I watched part of that. Once again, Panos Cosmatos' visual aesthetic is so distinctive. It's very much you love it or you hate it. And while I don't hate it, it's something I have to adjust to. So I've not sat through one of his movies. I started Mandy, didn't finish Mandy, but I started Mandy. And at some point, I'm just going to sit through his movies, particularly Beyond the Black Rainbow, which interests me. And I haven't watched enough of it to say it's a bad movie by any stretch. It's just that, as I've been saying, his visual aesthetic is so foreign to me that it makes it hard for me to watch his movies. And I'm trying to get over that. That's my issue, not his. He is an interesting director, just not my cup of tea. But I'm trying to, as I said, widen my vision. By which I mean most alien invasion movies work on the idea of the aliens being extremely hostile to humanity for reasons. With The Viewing, that element is removed. That's not to say the alien doesn't kill people, because it does. But you don't know why it's doing it. All you know that it's here and it's doing things. It's not evil, it's not even mean, but somehow in trying to communicate, it kills people. And this is a fascinating concept for an alien invasion movie, because it's not really an invasion in the sense that the creature doesn't seem to mean harm. Not really. It does a lot of harm, but it doesn't mean to do harm. And this is all my interpretation, because the thing doesn't talk, it looks vaguely demonic, but it doesn't act demonic. It just goes about doing its thing. By way of extension, if you come upon a colony of ants and you begin to play with them, for lack of a better word, and by accident you kill a few of those ants, you don't think of yourself as an evil person, I'm willing to reckon. And that's the same thing with the alien from The Viewing. It doesn't seem evil. It just does violent things. And the episode lasts, I want to say, 47 minutes. but it's very well fleshed out, very interesting, and just well done. And it is the first Panos Cosmatos joint that I've watched from beginning to end. And it makes me even more interested in actually sitting through Beyond a Black Rainbow and Mandy, which for me means a lot. The final episode of Cabinet of Curiosities is Jennifer Kent's The Murmuring, which was written by Guillermo del Toro. And this is a beautiful story about loss and grieving and making space for that, because if you don't, there's a cost. It revolves around this couple played by Essie Davis, the mother from Jennifer Kent's The Babadook, and Andrew Lincoln from The Walking Dead, who is virtually unrecognizable in this role. It took me a few minutes to actually find out who he was among all the people in this room in a particular scene. And they're ornithologists, which is a person who studies birds. And what they're studying in particular is the flying behavior of a particular bird. I don't recall the bird that they were working with. It's not a starling. But like a starling, these birds fly in clouds. And they almost seem to have a hive mind, in the sense that you can have hundreds or thousands of birds in one point. And they're all flying around in these patterns, and none of them crash into each other or get out of sync. It's so perfectly staged. It almost feels like it's somehow magical. So in any case, they go to this island where they're going to study birds. And the house that they're staying in had a horrific event happen. And the inhabitants of that event, though dead, haven't left. It's essentially a haunted house tale. But as I said, it's a cautionary tale as well, about grief, about facing your ghosts and not letting them eat you alive and destroy you. And it's a beautiful story as well. Jennifer Kent was a perfect choice for this, because some people may say not a lot happens in The Murmuring. And to those people, I would say you're entitled to your opinion. I would argue that plenty happens in The Murmuring. The thing is, what happens tends to be on a very human scale, which is to say you have people interacting with each other and interacting with the unknown, though it never gets grandiose or ridiculous in terms of its scale. It remains small. And I mentioned ghosts before. These entities are only seen by Essie Davis's character and not her husband. And the story, and it's a particularly clever story because it establishes that something traumatic happened to the family. But it never tells you what that event was. I should say, tells you significantly later in the narrative what that event was. Prior to that, the actors bring a sense of loss to their daily actions. So you're always aware that something isn't quite right with this couple. But it's only later on that you finally understand what's driving them apart. And I won't tell you what that is, but it's a very beautiful, it's a very touching and gentle story. And it's a fitting bookend to Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities, because I get the feeling that there's going to be a second season. As I mentioned with my last review, this has been in Netflix's top 5 for probably since its premiere, actually. And it's such a gorgeous, well shot, well visualized series that has some of the most influential directors behind the camera. It's beautiful, and I don't see how this cannot get a second season, which I'll be waiting patiently for. Now, what do you think? This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com in a review. Do you agree, disagree? Let me know down below. And as usual, consider a like or a follow. Peace.
He's just really tired.